two stories from the heart. Let me bring up our next guy. He's part of our family on 700 AM KSEV, Ben Streusand, who you've heard a lot on the radio. He serves as the state chairman for Americans for Prosperity, which is a national organization whose over 1 million members are dedicated to reducing the size of government and the cost of getting things done. It's that simple. You remember him from the Three Amigos? He's a frequent guest. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Ben Streusand!
How you doing, man? Thank you, Sam. Sam Malone, everybody, does a great job on 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas. And of course, in case you don't realize it, we're broadcasting live this evening. So on your way home, tune into us and call into the show and tell us what you think about tonight's event. You know, I'm a small businessman. I wear a lot of hats. In fact, as a small businessman, you know, wonderful Texas weather, right? You know what we call this in small business land? Recruiting season. That's right, we bring these people in from Minnesota and all over the north, and we kind of trick them and say, hey, it's like this all the time. Move on down, we need you. But one of the other hats I wear, in addition to doing part-time talk radio, is that I am the chairman of the advisory board for Americans for Prosperity. And for the last 10 years, AFP, as we call it, has been working to convince the American people that our long-term economic future rests with reducing the size, cost, and scope of both state and federal government. We've grown our movement to 1.5 million members nationwide and over 120,000 here in Texas. We have thousands of contributors that write checks and contribute their own money to protect these values for our children and for their country. We have three things that we are trying to accomplish. Number one, first, repeal Obamacare. Second, eliminate the deficit and reduce the national debt. And third, reduce the regulatory burden on American business and get this economy growing again. As Sam mentioned, last year we rented buses and we transported 320,000 people to Washington to oppose Obamacare and rally in D.C. In November, we ran ads in 60 congressional districts supporting Republicans in every district and opposing Democrats that supported Obamacare and cap and trade, including right up here in Waco, where our volunteers and our phone banks work to defeat Democrat Chet Edwards and elect Republican Bill Flores. Well, I think we're doing something right. In fact, why don't we play the clip? I think you'll recognize this guy's voice.
Right now.
Little technical.
Right now, all around this country, there are groups with harmless sounding names like Americans for Prosperity, who are running millions of dollars of ads against Democratic candidates all across the country. And they don't have to say who exactly the Americans for Prosperity are.
Thanks,
you don't
Clark.
know.
That's plenty. Hey, that's us! I think we're easy to find. I guess only George Soros is qualified to write big checks. Let me tell you something. Every organization, every Tea Party, every group, every voter is making a big difference. Washington is no longer asking if we should cut, but how much. In Texas, right here, our state is doing a pretty good job at controlling state spending, better than any other state in the country. Why? Well, because we're Texans, and because we've got a constitutional amendment that requires us to balance our budget. But even here, education spending in the last 10 years has grown 5 times more than the school population. And the education establishment is opposing every job cut, claiming that children will suffer. Well, our children will suffer if we have to raise, or if we raise property taxes on homeowners here in this state. Our state reps and our state senators say that they're going to balance this budget without a tax increase. And we'll see. And we've got some good state reps and state senators up in Austin, and you're going to hear from some of them later tonight. And we have some good congressmen from this area, and you're also going to hear from them. Now, I'm a patient guy, and my wife knows that. But it's taken years to create the mess we're in. But don't tell me that you can't find 2% out of a $3.7 trillion federal budget to cut. To all the politicians, let me just say this. Do not expect to improve your credibility with the American people if you continue to portray unspent money from last year's budget as budget savings this year. Do not take credit for cuts in government programs this year only to restore them next year and take cuts again next year and try to tell us you're doing something about it. You're not fooling anybody, and you're sure not fooling us. You know, I did a TV show the other day, and former Democrat gubernatorial nominee Chris Bell was on, former Democrat congressman, and he was making all these predictions that nobody will agree to anything because nobody wants to cut anything, and everybody else is willing to cut everybody else's stuff and everybody else's program. And I told him he was wrong. I told him that this country is prepared for sacrifice as long as we can be assured that the sacrifices are distributed equitably and that the benefits are transferred to future generations and not consumed by transfer payments to those who do not save on their own. Now, before I end, I just want to give you some idea of what's at stake if we don't get this job done. Sometime in the not-too-distant future, interest rates are going to start to rise. And because of the burdens of our existing interest payments, the future is going to look very bleak. The economy is going to grind to a halt, and the Federal Reserve is going to have to buy all the debt that the Treasury is selling, and we're already witnessing that right now. Inflation is what we have in our future. It's what's going to occur, and everybody here knows that oil prices and food costs are going up, and we're already seeing the beginnings of that. We will no longer be able to grow this economy. Interest payments will consume all of federal spending, and we will no longer be able to afford the American defense umbrella, which has kept the peace in a post-World War II world, and American values and our power will recede back across the oceans, exposing our allies like Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and Israel to the threats of their much larger neighbors. The left will say this is some kind of new world order, an America that because of its impaired economy can no longer project its values. But none of these things are inevitable. We can prevent the fall of America as a superpower. We have the ability to alter course. Together we can get the job done. Thanks for coming out tonight, and God bless.
Ben Streusand, nice. Another standing up.